Hi everyone, today we're going to guide you on how to construct a Level 7 SL paper. Paper 1 is basically a commentary on a text, which requires you to include techniques used and, more importantly, answer why the author used such techniques, tones, and etc. Since we're SL students, we're not required to talk about two texts. Just choose the one that you feel you can elaborate more. For this screencast, let's focus our paper 1 on the text A as the example. The first thing you should do when you receive your paper is, don't panic. Look carefully and dissect the text. Dissecting the text is pretty much the first part of every task you'll do in English, where you find the main idea the author is trying to convey through the text, and help us to construct our thesis. What do you notice about the picture? Don't worry, we're doing this for you as an example, although you might have different ideas from yours. To start dissecting, here we're looking at an image of a cartoon. We can notice right away that it's a typical living room setting, with a sofa, big screen TV, and a typical family, mom, dad, and kids. Everyone is busy doing their own things. Dad, the figure drawn on the forepart from the text point of view, is reading the news about a school shooting while commenting on how the country should have got rid of guns. Ironically, his little boys are playing GTA on the far corner, a game that includes a lot of, well, guns. We can use this irony given by the author as our thesis statement. However, stating irony is still not strong enough. Next up, we have to ask, why did the author choose to show this irony? We believe it is because the irony is what actually happening in reality, and the author is trying to evoke the idea to the audience. As the paper 1 organizer says, thesis should be a part of the introduction in your essay.
We then should elaborate on why we think this is an irony. Continue dissecting the text. First, let's start with the general look of the text. The author chose to use a webcomic as his text form. This is because webcomics makes the text less serious as compared to a poster or a news article. It relays a more comical tone to the text despite the serious context of shootings, which further emphasize the irony. Secondly, the author embeds certain forms of organization on the text to advertise his message. The setting takes place in a family living room, a place often associated with gathering and peace, yet the author set forth a topic about violence, providing further irony. He also puts the father on one side and the children on the opposite side of the room, symbolizing the idea that they're carrying contrasting ideas. This is further magnified by the size of the newspaper and the TV counterbalancing each other, where the newspaper shows children in school being shot, while the TV shows children being the ones that shoot, amplifying the irony. To get more perspectives, we can critique our text through different lenses. For instance, here, looking through the feminist lens, the woman, or assumably the mother, is seated in a separate sofa from the father and seems completely unaware of the situation, unresponsive to the father's remark. This might imply a generalization that women are ignorant to social issues. On the other hand, this ignorance can also be interpreted that women here in the 21st century is no longer portrayed as the childbearer roles of the 20th century. Notice that I didn't use the word nowadays and old times. Don't. IB wants it specific. Instead, she is sitting in a chair, symbol for throne, similar to the man's, symbolizing gender equality. Meanwhile, we can see their children are both young boys, which evokes the implication that men are more prone to violence. Next, through a new historian lens, it can be critiqued that the text condemns how the society was dealing with the current events of that time. We know the shooting was carried during the setting, as it's on the headline news. Rather than supporting one party and condemning the other, we see that the author is condemning both the government and the society at the same time. Outright criticism on the legality of guns presents his disapproval to the government's policy. Meanwhile, putting the irony in a typical society situation presents the hypocrisy of the society. Most people will still be able to relate to this text, as the context is not very long ago. The school shooting took place in the year 2005, and guns are still legal in the US, and GTA is still as violent as ever. In fact, a new edition just came out recently. However, this issue would be more relatable for Americans since the legality of guns and its resultant shooting is in the US, and less relatable for people like us Indonesians.
Lastly, looking through the Marxist lens, we can assume the characters are from a middle-class family, or basically one that's able to afford GTA, that still have time to spend with their family, and we should wonder why the author chose this. And it's probably because it represents most families in the US and generalizes how most families miseducate their children when talking about gun issue. The roles of children in this text is also belittled by portraying them small in the corner, representing weakness and insignificance as the victims of this issue. They are drawn with big psychotic eyes, magnifying their addiction to the game. After compiling enough analysis, it is now time to structure your paper. Separate ideas into paragraphs and write a rough outline to make sure you keep in track. Starting with your introductory paragraph, do not summarize. IB knows the text already. Instead, propose an idea through your thesis, which allows you to analyze deep into the text. And then you should shortly list down your ideas in a few organized sentences. These points are those to be explored in the body of your paper. Each paragraph should have a topic sentence and always something supporting your claim following it. Also, don't forget to relate back to the thesis every now and then to maintain argument driving your paper. Oh, and don't forget to use the grand words that IB just loves, like embed, anchor, amplify, magnify, belittle, advertise, evoke, and other sophisticated words. Well, basically, you can use those words that make you sound smarter. Oh, and most importantly, remember that you're under a time limit. Towards the end of the session, give some time for yourself to conclude. You had brilliant ideas on your paper one, but then so what? Although your hand might be sore by the time you get to this point, make sure you write yourself a few more sentences to gather everything together in the conclusion. Do this by restating your thesis. Remind your reader of the main purpose of your paper one. Emphasize on its significance to the reader. Finally, end your paper with another train of thoughts the readers can bring the text to. So those are the tips we have for you, and we wish you good luck for your paper one. Wish us good luck too.